All right, welcome back to another episode, everyone. Today is Rutcation Day 3. We are doing a little bit of camera shuffling here before the next couple of warm days. But I wanted to talk to you guys for a second about what maybe some advice for you, maybe some questions for you, right? As hunters, we like to assume a lot about what we know, what we've experienced in the past, and what that means for deer and deer movement. And I key on a lot of deer drives, the amount of deer you kick out of stuff like this, down in these swampy bottoms, real thick. Maybe you got some open patches and some standing timber, but for the most part, it's nice and thick. And I've just gone my whole life assuming that these are just riddled with beds. And every time I've been down in them in rifle season, you're kicking 30 deer out of places like this. You're finding beds everywhere. But then you get down in one that you've assumed is going to have a ton of action. And now I am, my first walk out here was, I think, mid-July, maybe beginning of August. And since then, I've been in and out of here with cameras and hunting, 30 times or so. I put on a good 10 miles of walking. And there's two things that have absolutely blown my mind. One, the lack of historical rub lines and historical rubs on any of these trees that can have them. Like, I'm standing next to a good one now. Like, I found a historical line here. That's something I like to look for, because if they've rubbed it once, they'll probably be on these trails again. And that seems to be the pattern. But I can't find any. And we're close enough to November today. What is it? October 28th, 27th, 28th. I would expect to start seeing rubs and rub lines down in here just exploding. And maybe I'm a couple days too early. Maybe I'm going to have my foot in my mouth. But my cameras have been in here. I've been walking in here for 2.5 months. And I have one decent buck on camera. And I've only found one solid rub line so far. So maybe I'm eating my words. Maybe I'm just a couple days too early, and when these bucks start breeding, they're going to push the does down in here, and that's when we're going to see the explosion of action. But as of right now, sorry to be a little convoluted here, but the rub lines I look for are the ones with scrapes on them. If you find a tree rub, then a scrape, then a tree rub, then a scrape, that to me keys a returning buck or returning bucks. They're going to check those scrapes again. If you just find a solid rub line, no matter how thick and how good it is, a singular buck could have walked through there one time and never come back. And then you see that, that rub line three weeks later, and you're just like, oh, look at the action here. They're all torn up. It's hard to tell sometimes. So whenever I find rubs, I don't really take too much from it until I also see scrapes. That's really what I key in on for current information. For past information, it's hard. You're not going to see where old scrapes were unless they keep hitting them year after year. But I'm finding these historical rub lines. You hope to find new rubs in those areas with scrapes on them. And that's how I key in on deer in these areas. I can't find it in here. I mean, there's not a lot to walk in this bottom. I think at this point I have walked the whole thing back and forth twice. The sign just isn't there yet. So maybe I'm early, like I said, but I just don't know what to think, because my entire life I've been thinking these bottoms and these areas, the deer are just bedded in here nonstop all the time, and that's where they go to live because no one's coming down in here. And then to spend the last 2.5 months just not seeing anything in here and not getting anything on camera and not finding the sign that I want to find, a little discouraging. But like I said, I did find one good rub line with some scrapes on a pretty thick trail. We'll see if that camera starts to send anything good. But ultimately, I think I'm relying solely on that camera to come back in here and hunt. I mean, you can tell there's almost no trees to get up in here and hunt anyway. That's why I believe it's so good. But there are a handful of spots that I marked. There's 2 or 3 trees near where I put that camera that I could definitely get in the saddle. And a couple of little areas where the weeds and there's an opening and the weeds are real low that I could get in and hunt from the ground. So I have a plan for in here. If anything pops up on the camera worth shooting and I know he's in the area, I can get into a couple of spots and get after him. But that's future plans. That's hearsay. But I'd like to hear your opinion. I know I'm starting to question what I know after being in this particular chunk for so long. But either way, let's keep moving. It's late in the day. We tracked Damon's deer until midnight. I didn't get home till 2. I couldn't wake up at 4, drive out and go hunting this morning. So I decided to come in at about 9, do a little camera shuffle on this chunk. Now we're gonna go head on over to where I'm gonna hunt, and I'm probably gonna set up. It'll be about 1 probably, and I'm gonna sit from 1 until the end of the day. But either way, let's get after it. Let's keep her moving. Let me know what you guys think. Does that surprise you guys too? Or are you just thinking, God, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about? Just let me know. Let me know what you think, but let's get after it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are finally set up in the tree. We started walking out at 1 o'clock on the dot. It is now 2:42. But I did do a lot of walking around before I chose a spot. There's just, there's nowhere good in this timber really to sit at all. So I'm just trying to find little pockets that have a couple of shooting lanes, and I'm hoping for the best. Now, this tree that I chose, I should hopefully be able to gain a lot of information too. Like, there's some really thick trails to the swamp to our south. There's a little swamp edge to our east, and there's a little swamp edge behind me here. And I can see across those. And I can also see to the south a CRP field. I don't know if I'll be able to see deer if they're moving around out there. But ultimately, this sit was to get a camera back in here, which we did. We found a scrape, threw it up on, it was like the 3rd or 4th trail that came through north and south, had a scrape on it. We put the camera on it. Ultimately, here today, we're working with some warmer weather. Yesterday was 50, today's 70, tomorrow's gonna be like 76, I think. I would like to hunt that 76th day. This property that I've been on is so much swampy, soggy bottom, shady areas. There's really no other way to put it. So on a day where it's gonna be 76, those bucks that are running around all night tonight, they're gonna lay down in those bottoms, those cool bottoms with some water. And the does should be in a little bit shadier areas as usual too. So like tomorrow would be a good day to go out, be a little more predictable movement. But I'm gonna use it as my edit day. I have a ton of videos I need to edit for you guys. You've probably already seen a couple of them. It is Rutcation day 3 today. Hasn't been great as far as finding deer, finding bucks, knowing where we want to be, but we've marked a lot off the map of like, all right, we're not going there. And we've definitely found some money spots. So here's to hoping tonight we see some deer and get some information, or at least get some information and see what we see. Hopefully we see some deer. So. Ladies and gentlemen, that is all she wrote. A couple of does. The only real problem with this spot is about 30 minutes ago, scanning with binoculars, I found a tree stand. There's a tree stand not far from here, so I like this spot. I get to hunt during the week a lot, so, chances that person's in here with me, low. But even if I came back to this area, I don't think I'd be in this spot. Like, I think I need to be about another 100 yards to the east, I think, so, if not a little bit more, but we'll see how it goes. I dropped a camera here. If anything big shows up, we'll sketch the game plan then. This is Rutcation day 3 in the books. I'm gonna go home, try to get an episode edited tonight if I can finish that in a reasonable amount of time. I think I'm gonna make a just awful walk out in the woods tomorrow. There's a spot I have picked out that I've been waiting to get into, and I'm gonna take my tree stand instead of the saddle because it's gonna be my all-day sit on Thursday, I think. Depending, you know, everything's fluid, but I think I want to get that tree stand put in there so it's ready to go, and all I got to do is bring some sticks and climb up to it. That's a deer. I hear a deer. 100%. But that's the plan, so. I'm gonna try to get this deer out in camera. There's plenty of light left, just not shooting light, so. If this deer walks out in time or into frame, I'll throw him in the episode, but without further ado, Rutcation at day 3 in the books, and we've got information. We've gathered a ton of information the last, 4 days of 5 days of 5 different sits, not 5 days, 5 sits that were looking really good for that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The last 5 days, I think we've gathered enough information that we can be successful. So without further ado, this is where we leave you guys right here in the tree stand. Make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe. And until next time, we will see you in the woods.